Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today, I think everybody's in for a treat. I have an amazing founder, CEO of Ethics. His name is Tim Tello. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
You're very welcome. I'm going to enjoy this, and hopefully my audience will, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. So let's kick things off, and I'll ask you first. I ask everybody the same question, but I get amazing answers. What is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, so been in the video game space for well over a decade. So I built three studios. Some of the coolest games that I've been a part of with games companies like, we built Narcos, and I've worked with built two studios with a guy named Chris Cross who created Medal of Honor and Call of Duty. So him and I, built a bunch of stuff. We built the first influencer gaming company. We built one of the first games on Game Pass for Xbox. Built one of the first language learning games ever. And so my whole career in gaming has led to this moment. So watching the European Union consolidate into the euro, watching Chris go from working with me to working with Nexon and JJ to building the first version of MapleStory, which was really truly one of the first Web3 games ever, right? They wanted Nexon token to go into all their games, but they couldn't figure it out. He called me with that problem, and then, talking to guys like Cliffy B, the creator of Unreal, about Fortnite before it was the first free-to-play game on console, led me to creating the first Web3 gaming company, writing the patent for the use of blockchain in a video game, getting the first SEC approval ever given, and helping get the first games on Apple, Google, Steam, Epic, and the first credit card deal in all of Web3.
Awesome. So the SEC gave. I want to talk about that. SEC gave you approval for crypto on gaming. What was the approval?
Yeah, so it's if you go look up on the SEC's website, they write about one no action letter every 7 years. So before Gary Gensler was the chairman, I worked with the SEC and DLX law firm with Lewis Cohen, and we built out the first ever model that was completely compliant by all U.S. regulatory laws for any token. So it's for any ERC20 token, so any simple Ethereum-based token, EVM compatible token to use. So not only has it been monumental for gaming, but it's been monumental for a lot of things. So most stable tokens fall under the line of this no action letter. So Paxos, when the SEC started to come after them a couple of years back for Binance USD, pointed at my no action letter and said, "Hey, we're 100% compliant. You cannot come after us," and they dropped the lawsuit. So a lot of the stable tokens like Circle and those exist because of that no action letter. So really, it was groundbreaking. DLX and Lewis. I thought Lewis was going to be. I predicted it a couple of years back that the SEC would create a chair for crypto, and I said Lewis Cohen would be tapped for that chair. And of course, it went to Hester, who was also fantastic. But I think he really set the stage for crypto compliance in the United States.
Interesting. Wow. Very cool. I did not know that. So
Yeah.
awesome. So I want to talk about your company, ethics. What is it all about? What differentiates you at the crossroads of AI and blockchain? What's it all about?
Yeah, so ethics is redefining the ad tech layer of the internet. Most people don't realize, but ads are the monetization source of the internet. Apple, Google, all these people make most of their money from ads. So there was a product called IDFA, which is Identifier for Advertisement, which is about 60% of Apple's revenue. And what it was is it basically it would take all your private information that you would type into your phone, iPad, or MacBook, and it would then turn around and sell that to advertisers to be able to target market to you. That became illegal under the US Privacy Act in 2023. And then also in Europe, we have GDPR, which is their Privacy Act. So what we talk about is like, we like to say the cookie is crumbled. Essentially, you can't use a cookie to target people anymore. That's why every website you go to asks you for approval or to decline to be able to be tracked. Websites like Shopify, all the direct-to-consumer models are dying a painful death because user acquisition is so expensive. But gaming, what people don't realize, most gaming is mobile. 200 billion of the $360 billion industry is mobile, and 72% of that is ads. So companies like Unity, who is the largest video game engine in the world, as soon as this law went into effect in 2023, and they went from a $59 billion market cap on the stock market to 8 billion within 90 days because all their monetization was gone. Companies like Voodoo and TapPlay, who have billions of users, have no money because the average cost or average value of an ad went from 8 cents to a dollar, depending on what kind of ad it was, to like 1 cent. So what we're doing is we're taking your data from payment processing on chain or on in games. So like every item, imagine the receipt from every item that you have, moving it into a custodial wallet, something you don't have to control. And then we advertise directly to that wallet, and then we give you tokens. So, I think also a big part of it and why we call ourselves ethics is we take no money. It's your time, it's your data. You should be funded for that. And so we provide the payment processing solution that then licenses that data to run the network. But it's fully decentralized. It's your data. It should be out there for you to get capitalization on, not for Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or any of those guys. You should be making the money from it.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. So
That's what ethics is all about. Changing the ad tech layer, changing a cookie into a custodial wallet where it's decentralized. I don't need to see you as Jamil. I see you as an ID, as a user ID, as a wallet address, nothing more. And I airdrop directly to that address, and you could do whatever you like with it. And you can change it into ETX. You can use it to buy Robux. You can use it to do whatever you want. And it's 100% yours because the only thing in this world that has any value is time, and it's your time and it's your data.
let's see. The ad tech model then has changed over time. So I understand this correctly, websites are not allowed to ask me about cookies anymore. I don't understand. I
No,
don't.
no, they can. They have to give you have to give express permission for a company to target you and to take your personal information and use that to advertise to you. So like every time you go onto a website now, at the very bottom it says accept or deny, right? Almost every website. That's because of those laws. And they're about to change it because what's happening is like you go on that website and you assume accept or deny. If you said deny, they're going to kick you off the website and you want to be there. So it doesn't really work in the favor of the consumer. And so they're actually changing that law that they have to be complicit and they have to be attentive on what they're telling you. Like you can still stay on this website, but you do not have to share your data with them. And that's the whole point of the internet is this is ours. It's not supposed to be owned by three or four guys. And at this point it is, right? The reason Mark Zuckerberg is so wealthy, it's not because Facebook is so valuable. It's the rule of multiplicity, right? He is basically taking every single person on Facebook and they're just a can of soup or a bag of chips on the shelf to him. You're all a product. People assume like Facebook is a product. No, no, no. You're the product. Facebook is just designed as a loop, a retention loop to keep you there, as long as it can keep you there. So that way it can keep selling you over and over and over again. So he gets wealthy. It's not for you at all. It's a psychological like prison that you're stuck in.
So then, how can the user get wealthy using their data?
Well, I wouldn't say wealthy is the right way because again, the rule of multiplicity applies. So he has billions of people using Facebook and Instagram. There's just you and your family, but it reduces the cost of inflation. It reduces the cost of products. So let's look at an example. Target right now spends about $20 million a month to advertise, mostly to women. Women are the biggest shoppers at Target, and like if you're like my wife, your wife's like my wife, she cannot go to Target to buy a toothbrush without spending $400. If I go buy my own toothbrush, I'll spend $3. But she goes to Target to buy a toothbrush, $400 coming out of her pocket. Target knows that. And they exploit it. And so they focus mostly on Instagram, where all the women reside. And so now let's talk about like an average ad. So that $20 million to spend, let's say you have they base everything on percentage. So the average on a really good click-through rate is 5% on an ad. but every view of an ad costs 9 to 10 cents for a view. So if you scroll past an ad, it costs that brand 9 to 10 cents. If you click on that ad, it costs $3. Okay, so out of 100 people, a good click-through rate's 5%, right? So 5 people out of 100 are going to click. That's $15. But the 95 who didn't click, that's $9.50. So far, to send 5 people to Target's website, Target has spent about 25 bucks, right? The average conversion on a website is 2%. And that's really high. That's a solid conversion. If you own a Shopify channel and you're doing 2% conversions, you're killing it. That is really, really good. But I've only sent 5 people to Target's website for 25 bucks. It is not enough to convert at a 2% conversion. I need to go back, multiply it by 10 to get to 50 people so one person converts, right? So now I've spent $250 before one person buys anything. What does that mean? That means the cost of goods go up to cover the cost of advertising because user acquisition is about $30 per paying person now. That means you as a consumer are covering the bases for everybody else. And not only that, but where they're gotten to the point where geo and demographics have higher CPAs and higher costs. Like if you go and look, if you use a VPN and you look at Target in like a rural area and you look at a price of a good on their website, now then go to the store and look at that same price of good, it'll be like $2 to $3 higher.
Interesting.
They use location-based pricing for affluent areas for, on the website based on your geos. Like they understand that some people can afford to pay the cost of their advertisement, but this is all starting to have a major effect on inflation, on cost of goods sold. People talk about all the time over the last 2 terms of different presidents, the cost of groceries have gone up 4x. It's not really a political problem. It's an advertising problem. Because if you also look back, the same time is when all the privacy acts went into effect. When those privacy acts went into effect, it caused a major issue. So used to be Facebook would charge, $10 to paint this wall, right? Now they promise you the same thing, but instead of painting the whole wall, they just throw a bucket of paint at the wall, but it still costs $10 because they have no idea who they're advertising to.
Wow. It makes you think, you just had a couple of things there. One was, let's talk about this first. My wife is kind of like your wife. I went to Ethan Allen with her on Saturday, and I thought it was going to be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was 4 hours. So I'm like, my son calls me. He's like, "Where are you? I've been gone all day." So
Yeah.
I bought him an Xbox X as a present.
You're,
So
you're a nice dad. Been
thank
gone
you.
for 4 hours and you get an Xbox. I'll tell you to leave all the time.
And then the groceries, though, the price is going to go up, right? And I don't see that as an advertising problem, right? I saw it as a inflation, or as a tariff problem, right? They said the price is going to go up, right? So are they tied in any way, tariffs and advertising, or it's just,
I mean that's where the political inflation comes into line, right? Because with a tariff, we as the United States import, I think like 70% of our domestic products, like the things that we use, almost 70%. That means if we're charging 25%, someone has to cover that. Now, I can also tell you, my wife owns one of the fastest growing direct-to-consumer brands in the country. And we do a lot of our sourcing from China, Italy, and France. So we're going to get hit with either, well, and what people don't realize is China already had 25% tariff. He added 10%, so now it's 35% tariff. And then you have, 25% Canada, Mexico. If any of those sources, I think what's going to actually happen, and I've already seen it from, directly, is I turned around immediately to my suppliers and I said, you're going to have to eat that cost or you're going to lose me. And they did. They ate it. And so I don't know, because like I'm not going to charge more for my wife's product to U.S. consumers. That's not fair to U.S. consumers. But someone has to cover that cost. And it's either I cover it or they cover it. But again, go back to ads. most people, and luckily my wife is an influencer and does not buy ads. And so all of our traffic is organic, but that is not the case for 99% of products in the world. 99% of products rely on ads. So if I'm already spending $32 to acquire a purchaser on average, that's a big deal. If I'm now paying another 350 in cost of goods sold per unit, when my profit was already at like 8 to 12%. So I don't have room to move. So we're going to see companies fail because they're not going to negotiate well. We're going to also see, a lot of companies turn around to their suppliers and have to negotiate very hard to get them to cover those costs.
Got it. So I want to talk about supplier relationship. You are not only revolutionizing the ad tech space, you're revolutionizing the way payments are done. And one of the big problems in payments, I'm a Litecoin holder. I've been a Litecoin holder for many years. I know the importance of chargebacks, and I know that the risks and all that with chargebacks, right? How are you revolutionizing, the payment space, and then how do we, using crypto, eliminate the chargeback risks that our suppliers and vendors face when dealing with business with us?
I think that's the beauty of crypto, right? Confirmations showcase you have the funds. So unlike debit and credit card and processing rails, which we do provide, um, most of those rails are a loan. I'm sending money, or I'm telling you I owe you if I'm MasterCard, right? There's a reason MasterCard charges a 2.3% plus interchange, right? That fee is to cover chargebacks. It's to cover the cost of their product. So what they're saying is like, you go to the grocery store, you swipe your card, the grocery store does not get that money right then. A grocery store might get it, ACH to them because the ACH costs like 7 cents, 4 cents. They don't want to run that transaction. So they're going to ACH it to them 2 to 3 days down the line. But if you go turn around and you tell your bank, I didn't do that, or later on, 30 days later, you tell the bank, I didn't do that. No, that's why they charge that 2.3%. And then they charge the merchant $25 fee. Now, when we talk about cryptocurrencies, if I wanted to send you Bitcoin, right? The whole process of sending you a Bitcoin, you have to have validation of the network, right? You need 21 people to say, yes, he has this much Bitcoin, and yes, this is a real wallet that it is going to. And so as soon as that block is served, you can't take it back. So but it's a slow process. So then you get validators to speed that up with proof of stake. And so a validator can say, okay, look, we can look at all 21 of these transactions really fast and like tell you like yes, 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 way faster than they can do the math. Now the only way crypto works and why it's kind of funny because like people talk about like, oh, we can reduce the cost of, international transactions. And this is like the big thing like XRPers always talk about, like, right? It's like, oh, cross-border payments. It'll be so cheap. Everyone can do cross-border payments. Actually, if you think about it, Base is probably the cheapest out of everybody to do cross-border payments. But all crypto works the same. You have to validate that I have this and you have a active valid wallet and that I'm sending it to you, and then it validates that you received it. It confirms that transaction every single time. So when we do a transaction on chain, it's very hard to back it up. Now, it's kind of like think about it like this. If I sent you money, there's a qualm to this. If I send you money and you scammed me, getting it back is almost impossible. So that's another issue that we deal with. And so on our end, we work with AI, we work with companies like Insure, we work with, early fraud detection. We look at lookalikes through our AI models and machine learning to really break this down. So gaming, has 20 to 30% chargebacks industry wide. It's probably one of the highest high risk markets in the world. And so there's really, really good AI and machine learning tools that have been around for the last decade that really help prevent this. There's also, very complex. So like the chargeback rate on someone that swipes their card is very low because most people just assume because they have a camera, but when you're there in person swiping your card, it's almost like a digital signature. You were there, it happened. It's very hard to say you didn't do it. but they're starting to build these very complex, and Micah is a good one to look at. These very complex algorithmic expressions that essentially provide a digital signature that you are you, that you really did it, that eliminates like 99% of all chargeback and fraud. So we're the whole industry is moving on online and on chain, and it's all being done because we can validate transactions at the moment of creation to the moment of securement
And that'll reduce the chargebacks or the
by
loss.
by at least 99%.
Got it. That sounds good. So I'm thinking the use of AI is important here, and what you'll be able to do then is, especially like from remote parts of the world, is you'll be able to assign an identity to people who you're dealing business with, right? What
Hmm.
breakthroughs are going to be possible now using AI that were not, present with just only blockchain, but now the combination of two enables. What does it enable, and how do you know, what's your role making that improvement and happen?
So I think that this is another one of those things that people assume is new, right? When we talk about AI, it's kind of funny to me that so many people like are scared of AI, like it's a new thing. AI and machine learning have been around for a very long time, extremely long time. And I think it's also important to understand what AI is. It's essentially it's assumption models, right? If A plus B equals C, then you tell that to the machine, and it reminds everybody that the answer is C. So think of it like this: if 100 people took a test, and 90% of those people said the answer to question one was A, right? And then 7% said B, and then the last few percent said C and D. When you ask that question to you say Chat GPT, it would tell you the answer is A, but it gives you the option at the bottom saying, well, this answer's not good enough. Oh, it might be B. So AI isn't really AI. What's happening is it's using assumption models based on the most approved selection. And so we're not taking AI and we're creating something new with blockchain. We're taking blockchain and adding AI. And so for us, like we're taking all the receipts from what you buy on in a video game or what you buy through our payment processing to on ramp and off ramp from crypto, what you're buying through our partners. We're looking at all that information and then we're applying it to AI models and machine learning models to create lookalikes, to create data lakes, to create, assumption models. So, they've proven that they could take your last 5 credit card transactions on Visa's network, and with a deviation of about 3, they can figure out what your credit score is. Just looking at your last 5 transactions, because they can compare it to everybody else in the Visa network who's had similar 5 transactions. What were their credit scores? What do we know about them? So with a blindfolded, they can look at it and say, oh, his credit score is a 720, just off of these 5 transactions. That's how good AI and machine learning is. So when you get down to the consumption level, and not your personal information, not your age, sex, or location, but what do you buy, right? If I bought a flight to Miami, you probably need some swim shorts. You probably need flip-flops. You probably need these things because that's what everyone else who went to Miami, that's what they did next. And so when you understand those things, you understand how to advertise better. So then the advertising goes up. Now you go to your favorite flip-flop store, or you go to you go to Billabong to get a pair of swim trunks, and you pop on their website because you saw their ad, and they say, hey, you got $12 in Billabong rewards for seeing our ad, and you can use that. The chances of you buying something increases from 2% to like 80%. And then I charge them a referral fee.
Interesting. So I'll tell you my last 5 transactions. Get
I'm not an AI, but
it was gas, salad, um, cookies from Crumble, my son's spa because he had a physical therapy, and WWE tickets.
yeah. Well, I could just I'm not an AI, but I can tell you a lot from that, and I can learn a lot from you. One, I could WWE tickets. You probably have kids, right? You can learn that pretty quickly. You bought a salad, so you choose to eat healthy, so you're probably a healthier person. You went to a spa, so I'd immediately assume you're between the ages of 35 and 55. And then, well, you said gas. That one kind of is an anomaly because everyone buys gas. But you start to break these things down based on what you do, and you compare them to other people. I would also assume that you're affluent because you can buy WWE tickets. Now, if I look at the price of the WWE tickets, I can know how close you are to the stage. If I know you're closer to the stage, you're probably a wealthier human being. Then I can start to say, okay, his credit score is probably in this range. And not only does it matter about what you bought, the price that you bought it at, right? And then so we can start to figure out different things just by taking assumptions and taking the most probable next answer.
Wow. See, interesting. Wow. I didn't think like you do a lot of just that.
That's how my
Okay.
mind works. My mind works different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. So I guess we're going to be able to. Um. Yeah. I want to touch on this. I want to shift gears, but you made me think. So thank you.
Of course.
Um. Yeah. I want to talk about your title of your company, the name of your company. Um,
Ethics. Yeah.
ethics is something that's missing right now in crypto and blockchain, right? Isn't it? How do you think we improve the ethics in the industry?
You know, I think, like I said, I basically invented Web3 gaming, right? And I helped create Polygon. Janti Kunani used to work for me. He was my lead engineer. I built the first ZK based on Mario Brothers. I built the first layer twos. I worked with the SEC. I set the pathway for people to come down. And the only reason I am not as famous as like Joe Lubin or Vitalik or, all those guys, Amin, is because for the last 7 years, I have not agreed with anything gaming related in Web3. I don't believe in speculation is always needed. I don't believe, your NFT art is really worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't really believe like these things really matter. And I really don't believe in rug pulls. I don't enjoy VCs writing checks to people to then turn around when they get their cliff on their equity or their token and immediately selling it all. And so that these projects that are trying to build lose all their validity, all their credibility, everything just goes to the wayside. I don't agree. And so for us, ethics is all about doing what's right. Um, you know, we wholeheartedly believe your data and your time is valuable, and that you should be rewarded for those things. We don't take any money out of it. Our ad network, you get 100% of every dollar earned. So we partner with like Procter and Gamble, Pepsi Foods, Burger King. When they run an ad to you and you see that ad, I immediately airdrop the exact amount that ad was worth, and I give it all to you. I only make money if you were to buy something. Like if you were to go to Burger King and use that token that they gave you to buy Burger King, fantastic. And I'll make 10% or whatever it is that I've agreed to at Burger King. But I don't believe that I should be the kind of person that gets value from other people's time and hard work, um, or their consumption. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, when we look at things, we look at them a little bit different. Like, we look at things as how do we remove bad actors from the space while setting the precedence and the tone for the rest of the space. And I think decentralization is how you do that. I think, greed is an inherent quality of all people. You can't take it out of you. So you have to understand it and accept it, and you have to move further down the line. And an example of that would be like, it's so hard. People don't realize how hard it is not for these people not to rug pull, right? Think about it, right? You're sitting on these tokens, and it's what you one click, one time, you click a button saying do it. Your heart's racing, it's moving fast. You're just like, I don't like, there's hundreds of millions of dollars just sitting there that you could just have it, take it, it's yours. Imagine it's like the Aladdin, right? You walk into the cave of wonders and there's jewels everywhere. Don't touch them. If you touch them, it's over. You have to get to the genie's lamp. If you touch anything else, it's done. But you're sitting there every day at your computer, one click away from rug pulling at all times. So what I did on my tokens is that one, I set a vesting schedule out for, longer than everybody else's. And I put what I call nuclear launch codes in. I have to have a validation network agree to let me sell any of my tokens over 1% of my entire supply. If I decide I want to sell 1% of the whole supply of my tokens, not 1% of the whole token supply of just my tokens, of my allocation, I have to have 5 people say yes to let me do that. And I think I'm gonna insert a randomization. So, you know, where it just goes to people on the network and say, it'll send them a thing, say, hey, this person wants to sell this many tokens. This is what it is. Yes or no. And you click yes, boom, I can do it. I really think that if more people understood that it's so hard, that temptation to click, if you just remove that temptation, I don't have that ability. No matter what I do, I'll never have to deal with that ability because I've written it into our smart contract. Like I don't, it's something that we all had. Greed is a part of who we are. We wouldn't work, right? We wouldn't want the biggest house. We wouldn't want the nicest car. We wouldn't want the coolest clothes. It's who we are as a human population. And so we have to accept that and we have to move forward in understanding how to prevent it. But most people don't think like me. And that's been the problem with the industry. And it's like, I'm a big golf fan. Tiger Woods had millions and millions of women throw themselves at him. He messed up one time. And that one time just kind of dropped him, right? It's so hard to deal with that temptation every day, a million times a day, without this one time giving in.
Yeah, I can see that. Interesting. So I wanna have a follow up there. I can do a lot of follow ups on what you just said, but I want to do one because you are from the gaming industry, right? Um, a lot of projects in this space in crypto Web3, gaming projects have done this model play to earn. Okay.
A terrible model.
What, yeah, what do you think would be a better model?
Roblox is the best Web3 model on the planet. You don't need a token that has speculation. Here's the problem with play to earn. Play to earn, you got to understand you need buyers and you need sellers, but you also need in the middle grinders. And people forget the grinders part. So you like salad, you went and bought a salad. I bet you didn't pick those tomatoes, right? You need someone to go pick those tomatoes. So that way they can then sell them to the market. The grinder picked them, the seller sold them, you bought them. Play to earn is missing the middle. You have people that are going, in Southeast Asia who can be the grinders, like, but they're not selling into the open market. What they're doing is they're turning around and just selling to the liquidity pool, to the exchanges where no one is buying because there's no product market in there. So like instead, if you were to give them, like items or NFTs or digital things that they could then sell on a secondary market to the game players themselves, think of it like World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is like one of the first Web3 games ever. And the reason is people would grind gold and sell it on eBay. People would buy that gold because they didn't want to do it. And then they would turn around and play the game. Someone like me, like I played Pokemon Go when it first came out. I walked 10 miles the first day, probably the most I've walked in 10 years. And, I played it. And the problem is, and why it fell off, is I had to catch 400 Magikarp to get one Gyarados. I had to grind that out. But if you told me I could pay 10 cents for a Gyarados and, they would have got a 3% rake and someone could have gone out and grinded those Magikarp for me and sold them like eBay secondary market, I'd have bought all of them. I'd have bought them all day. I would have spent $40 to get a Gyarados. So now I have a grinder, I have a seller, the secondary market, and I have a buyer. But the tokens, what did you do with the token? You just sold it. You didn't, there were no buyers. Everyone was selling, they were earning them, they were selling. They were earning them, they were selling. There was no value add to the economy of scale. Now look at Roblox. You got to understand in a game, there's everyone has their own value proposition, right? Users, what is the value to the user? Well, it's content. TikTok has proven it. Roblox has proven it. The more content you have available at any time when I get bored, that is what I want. That is the value to a user. To a developer is essentially an artist, right? What is the value to any artist? If you're an author, if you're a painter, you just want someone to take what you did and enjoy it, read it, write, look at it, enjoy it, right? So their content value is users, right? So now I'm a platform. How do I marry these two things together. I create an economy. I need a grinder, I need a buyer, and I need a seller. And so Roblox figured that out. Roblox switched to a single currency model in 2015. And for 7 years in a row, their revenue doubled every single year. Now they are worth more than the entire AAA gaming industry by themselves.
I like it. I like it. I think it's a good model. I like that. So I could use that and apply it to the NFTs as well or anything else. So
Anything, anything.
anything.
You have to have to create a flywheel. You need an economy of scale. Create an economy of scale. You need grinders, you need buyers, and you need sellers. That's how that works. And if you leave one out, you can't. The wheels don't turn. Right? If you think of it like a gear, right? You have two big gears here, but you have that little gear right at the bottom, balancing the other two gears, right? You have to have all three. If one of them stops, it just doesn't work. It'll roll for a little while, but then you're going to start chipping teeth. You're going to start breaking stuff. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been very insightful and I enjoyed and enjoyable. I enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you very much for speaking
Thank
with
you.
me. I
Thank you for
have
having
one.
me.
Hey, you're welcome. I have one last question. It's easy.
Shoot.
How can people find out more information about you and about ethics?
Yeah, you could Google me. I'm easy to find. Ethics, we have a website, ethics.com, 3thix.com. We have socials, we have Discords, we have Telegrams. I jump in there some from time to time. You can always find me speaking on some stage around the world at some crypto or gaming conference. Um, reach out. I'm a normal person. I like to talk to everybody, and I'm happy to talk to anybody. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Just reach out.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.